Welcome to Art Kids, the podcast hosted by three college buddies, Lisa, Reese, and Tracy, where we talk about all things art. In this episode, we talk about Auriea Harvey, a digital artist and sculptor living and working in Rome, whose recent exhibit at the Museum of Moving Image in New York has gained a lot of attention and publicity. Auriea's experiment with digital art is not only about the tools, but about exploring more complicated topics like intimacy and how people connect and communicate in the digital space. Hey, how's it going?
Hey y'all.
Good.
Happy Monday.
Happy
Monday.
How was everyone's weekend?
It was great.
Nice.
My
did a
weekend,
lot of things.
my weekend's gonna be going till Tuesday night.
Ooh, I'm jealous.
Fancy.
Mm-hmm.
I went and saw Fortune Feimster last night.
So jealous. Love her.
It was
What's
amazing.
that?
She's a comedian.
Comedian, yeah. She was also on the Mindy Project. She was one of the nurses.
Mindy Project. I mean, I love Mindy Kaling, so that's cool.
Yeah,
I feel like you would recognize her though. She's got like curly blonde hair. Queer comedian from North Carolina originally. Very distinct. You'd recognize her.
Maybe. Is she
She's
tall?
yeah.
Yeah.
Got a couple of Netflix specials.
I feel like I might have seen her around.
Yeah.
Around the
Great.
tip.
It was fun. We went to a little place in Poughkeepsie, the Bardavon, and so we like sat in the front row, which was great. And I always forget that that venue is a cell phone free venue, so I don't have any pictures or videos, but it's amazing. Just happy to
That's
go.
awesome. I do love her. She's great. And I love the fact that she's getting more popularity these days. She very much deserves it. I want to see her everywhere.
Same.
That's cool.
Very fun. So that was my weekend. Oh, I also went into some caves on Friday. We took a
How
little.
was Cavern? I'm so jealous about that too. I really want to go. We should do like an art kids outing there one day. I've been wanting to go forever. I've never been.
It's so cool. So we just did like the normal tour, which is about like an hour and a half. You go down, it's like 150, 200 feet below. You walk through. There's a little boat ride underneath. And they have an extended tour, which you get to go, you like end the boat ride at a dam and then you get off and then you put on, I would assume like kind of waders or like whatever sort of protective gear. And then you go past the like proper section for tours. So it's like a 3-hour tour. I don't know if it would be considered spelunking necessarily, but
I have a question.
yeah.
Does it involve going into like really deep crevices where you feel claustrophobic? Like,
No.
are you
So
okay?
that was
Because when you said like when you go past the tour, I was like, oh, don't tell me you go underground.
that was one of the questions because our guide was like a really big like guy and he was like, you're not going to find me. He's like, if I can't go like this with my arms, I'm not going into anywhere. And so we had asked a couple of people who had been and they're like, no, there's no crawling on the ground through little spaces in this one. They're like, if you want to do that, I can tell you where to go do that, but it's not here. And we were like, okay, cool. So maybe we'll go back.
Not want to do that.
Yeah. And it's only specific times of the year. I think they said like end of June to beginning of August or October because of they have bats that will hibernate in the cave and so they don't want to disrupt the bats while they're in the cave. So there's like a specific time of year you can go and all this stuff. It was cool. I hadn't been there in a really, really long time. And then we got there and there was like a field trip from my elementary school, which I thought was really funny. I was like, see, I just like that was me a long time ago.
That's awesome. I love that.
It was great.
Yeah,
So-
we're gonna have to do that. I've been always wanting to go. So
Yeah.
I don't want to disrupt the bats.
no, none of us want to disrupt the bats. That'd be bad.
Sorry.
Tracy, take it away.
Okay, so today we are not doing our scheduled topic. I picked something else on artnews.com, and they have an article currently about Auriea Harvey. She's a digital artist and sculptor, She has a new exhibit that opened this month. It's called My Veins Are the Wires, My Body is Your Keyboard. And this is at the Museum of the Moving Image in New York, in Astoria, New York. Okay, so close to us. So now we all have to go. So lots of trips we're planning here.
Our kids
But
trip.
yeah, our kids trip. We can report back after we go and see the exhibit. But I thought this was a really cool person to highlight because there are some things that tie back to our last episode with Josh Harris. She she got her start in the early 90s. She was like a pioneer, I guess I would say. She was really into exploring like digital and internet art in the early 90s when the internet was just beginning. She was like really messing around with what she could do digitally, how people interacted with it, pushing the media, similarly to what Josh was trying to do with his stuff. But also she was interested in the human aspect of it, the psychology of it, like how can we create intimacy and how do people connect and communicate over a digital space? And she was really immersing herself in it. And there's even an interview where she talks about like how her friends who had nothing to do with the internet or online at the time, like just didn't understand what she was doing with her time. And they were like, what the hell are you doing? She's like, this is my life now. This is how I interact with people. And I believe she actually even met her now husband online. And
Oh, wow.
we'll kind of talk about how he plays into her life of things. So so I thought it was really cool. I want to tie back to some things. And also the one thing we had talked about at the end of last episode was like, how cool would it be if we could recreate the experience of what the internet was like when it had first come out for people who don't know? Well, she did this with the help of a nonprofit called Digital Art Nonprofit Rhizome. They were able to help bring some of her old websites back online, and they are in the exhibit for you to experience and play with. There's also a link right now that you can go to on your own computer, entropy8.com, and you can do that. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
I'm
Who
excited.
we're going to talk about today. All right. So after all that being said, I also think the one thing that made me excited about this is just how it's still relevant, even though her current exhibit is kind of a retrospective on the past like 4 decades of her work. It ties into the current like digital art space today, the popularity with NFTs and augmented reality, and video games. Video games that's a huge industry of digital art.
Yep.
So, who is Auriea Harvey? She was born in 1971 in Indianapolis. In her early years, like high school, whatever, she developed an interest for art. She got into sketching and painting. For college, she went to Parsons School of Design and graduated with the BFA in sculpture. And she really kind of like possessed this remarkable sense for how the digital revolution in the 1990s like spawned this shift in society and the way that human connect. So she was another one of those people who had the foresight to kind of mess around and push the boundaries of digital art and how we as a society would start to connect with it. Some projects that she founded and is well known for, one that I mentioned, Entropy 8. This was a website that she created experimenting with interactivity and the function of net art. And so you can go to that website. It's ENTROPY, the number 8.com, and kind of poke around. It's really funny to experience a website like that because it is so primitive. And like just the graphics, they're all pixelated and really like, oh yeah, I remember what things
And
were
also
like
like the
this.
use of like animated GIFs. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like
Yeah,
that's so old school. It's like as a trend to want
yeah,
to use GIF.
And
it's
every time you click on something, it's like a pop-out window that's totally separate.
Yeah,
Pretty old school.
that's pretty old school. Like ideology.
hmm Brings back some great memories. I wonder, and this is something I'll dig into a little bit on my own, but I really wonder what she used to build it. I was thinking Flash, but like, when did Flash become popular? That looks like before the time of Flash. So I guess I don't know. I'll look into it, figure it out. So 1995, she worked on that website. She also was designing websites for Virgin Records America and PBS, so she was like really in that space. In the early 2000s, she left kind of like the net art world to move into video games. There is a an interview with her on YouTube right now. It's with the Computer History Museum. Okay, so the Computer History Museum interviewed her, and she talks all about her life. It's really long. Anyways, there is a part in the interview where she literally says that they were doing their thing, they were getting really into it. She was feeling like they were paving the way for people to be in this space and to make things and create things online. And then Facebook surfaced. And she said that she literally was like, this is bullshit. And they rage quit the internet and moved into video games.
It was all leading, but I was very much against this linearization, this idea of push media, this idea of banner ads and data collection and, just all these kinds of things. And so I left. Michael and I, you could say, rage quit the web we made one art piece in 2006 about it. But it was like, we just did not want to be a part of the Facebookification of the internet, turning it into a giant shopping mall.
So she moved her focus into video games. And so this is where she started working with her partner, now husband, Michael Salmon. They created a video game company in the early 2000s called Tale of Tales. And the goal of this video game company was different than what was out there, what was already like being made and marketed towards the major demographic of like teenage boys, but their goal was to create games with a greater emotional engagement and like an imaginative, like immersive experience. So that was something that she did for a while and worked on. And so, so video games. So again, digital art, but just in kind of a different industry, in a different space, and a different way to reach people and interact with them. And some of the other projects to note that, well, I guess they're exhibitions, not necessarily projects, that I just wanted to highlight, was in 2021, she had a show called Year Zero. And that show was disrupted by the pandemic, like a lot of other things. And so it got cut short. But also when I was reading about the exhibit, it talked about how this was like almost the perfect storm. Like it really highlighted the whole physical aspect versus the virtual. So things that she does currently, like she does a lot of process work. And while she's processing maybe her digital work, she'll use her 3D printer to print out the digital work. And so she'll have all of these iterations digitally and physically. And she's done this in a way that like when she has an exhibition, she can have physical items there for people to interact with, but then she creates these virtual like augmented reality versions to allow her artwork to be more accessible, but for people to have a more intimate connection with them rather than just like seeing pictures of the space with the artwork in it, or just seeing pictures of the items. It's not as nice of an experience. She was also able to give some virtual tours of her exhibition, as well as some in-person ones when she was allowed to be in the space. So I thought that was really great because accessibility to art is really important. I think for a lot of people over the pandemic, especially with businesses and services and artists, like not being able to interact with things in the physical and then having to shift into this like virtual space, but but still wanting that like full experience with something, I think pushed a lot of change in what we see now and what we get to experience now, and even those immersive like experiences. Lisa, you and I went to one recently in New York City at Art Tech. I thought that was something that was really cool. I'd never been to one. Oh, did you go to the other one? You went to one in DC too, right?
I went to the Van Gogh one. So we were going to go to Art Tech's DC one, and then we realized the Van Gogh exhibit was there, and we did that too. And that had, so when Tracy and I went to Art Tech, it had like one or two, like you walk into this big room and there's one or two smaller pieces, and then there's this big room with projections all over the place. And it's, the images are sort of rotating, it's being projected over people, there's music. And then the cool part about that was at the bar, they have this like live AI screen where they're taking photos of people sitting at the bar and creating AI art out of them. And then they had these cards where you can take pictures of the artwork, and then it becomes this like augmented reality piece through the app. Now, the exhibit we went to at Van Gogh had a few rooms where it was like augmented reality art pieces along the way. So it kind of took that idea and brought it out a few steps further, which makes sense because I mean, I imagine that company has like a much larger budget. And so it was cool to see the different, now having two examples of the use of that in exhibits and how people are starting to work with that now, because I do see a lot of opportunity and function there. You know, like Tracy were just saying about making it accessible to people. One other aspect of the Van Gogh exhibit that was really cool was you had an opportunity to like pay $5 for this virtual reality part of the Van Gogh exhibit. And we almost didn't do it, and I'm so glad I did. And you put on this VR headset, and it first takes you like you're walking through a gallery, and it made me dizzy at first because like you look down, everything moves, like it's so immersive. And but then it takes you as if you're moving through one of Van Gogh's paintings, and it was such, this is going to sound corny, but like it, because it's sight and sound, and it overpowers you, like it was moving, like I like teared up at one point, it was so beautiful. So I think about like taking these things and what that's going to mean for like, you know, like just having the option of doing this with headsets or different augmented reality stuff. It not only creates accessibility, but it just creates a more intimate, in-depth experience in certain ways.
I think I was really drawn to this article and just learning about this artist, one, because she's new to me, and I was kind of blown away by how she progressed through the years of embracing what was available, like mixing the digital versus the physical, thinking about the psychology of it, thinking about like how society today really lives like through the internet, honestly. But still like wanting people to have the full experience as if they're in the physical. And also 3D art, like I think it's so cool that she like prints her processes, she iterates that way, she utilizes that technology. She's still like really kind of nerding out about code, and she's like she still loves the things that she loved back in the 90s about that sort of technology, but is like really trying to pave her own way and create these different pieces and experience in that way. And now to think of like, okay, so let's talk about NFTs, which honestly I kind of understand. I don't really understand.
I
Do
barely
you have
understand.
anything to add?
I barely understand NFTs.
Which is funny. Like we're like, why don't we know about this stuff? Like, how do we learn? Maybe we'll do an episode on NFTs.
Stuff to me, like I feel like it's like digital art or something, but like collectibles somehow, and like there's money behind it. Like I don't even understand it really.
Yeah, it's kind of just appealing to the people that like to collect one of a kind things.
And I guess it has to do with cryptocurrency to some degree.
Yeah, that connection for
There
sure.
is a connection there. How? I'm not even 100% sure.
We're all gonna learn about this together. Okay.
Welcome to season 2, cryptocurrency.
But yeah, so like NFTs have became this like huge thing. You know, they are digital. It is digital art, and it was like being sold to the, the highest bidder. I guess I can't really talk about it because I don't know much about it, but I think about the way she had started thinking about digital art, interacting with people, where it's going, and now it's kind of like people are once again visiting the capabilities of digital art. What can be done with it? How can it be brought in to the now and be relevant and be attractive to people? But that's like a lot about making money. She's not a lot about making money, right? She's about making experiences. But I do love that the augmented reality part is being pulled into it. If you visit her Instagram page, she has an example on there of a sculpture that's on a stand, but then there's a screen next to it that shows the augmented reality version of it that you can interact with by touching the screen and moving it around. Think of like when you're shopping, well, kind of when you're shopping for a car and they have the option for you to spin around the car. It's almost the same sort of functionality. But I do think even a few years ago, I was in Philadelphia for a conference, and I went to an exhibit, and there was augmented reality put into the exhibit there as well. So I'm interested to see how that continues to grow. I'm interested to see how she continues to grow as an artist, because she's still making things and talking about her stuff. I just think it's really cool that she's kind of getting all this press and publicity, and all of that like desire to learn and explore back in the 90s when this was like a new media for people to be into is been really fruitful for her in this body of work that she gets to show.
I do love the idea of taking work that was around then that maybe we're not like, I think we're unsure on how big her projects back then had gotten, at least like on a fine art scale. But the fact that the way technology is shifting now, we are now revisiting those older concepts and looking at them through another lens of how art is done and like the value within that. And I think that's interesting. And it's so funny how that's come up after our conversation last week around Josh Harris and everything, because I do think now that technology started to catch up with stuff and everyone else is caught up, we are going to go back a little bit more to these artists that had these earlier ideas, or revisit projects and look at them through a new lens. And I think that foundation that's funding the like the rebuild of Entropy 8, or how they're showing it, is really interesting, because that really was the initial steps forward for digital art that we have now, and AI art and stuff, and it was done at such a time where people really didn't know what was coming, but they just felt the urge to create it. And I think it's good for us to all look back and kind of see the vision they had then. So I think her stuff looks awesome. Question for it though: did you happen to notice, like, is there a particular theme you seem to see running through with her, like in terms of the objects she creates? I meant to ask you.
So some of the busts and just yes, so kind of like fantastical creatures, which I wonder if that like plays into the video game realm, like fantasy and whatever. I also wonder if she's a Capricorn
Ooh, we'll have to.
because of the imagery with the women with the horns, and we could look more into her birthday and her astrological sign. I don't have
Ooh,
an exact birthday for her. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of like women and
mythical figures.
Mhm.
But also like muted colors like red and like black and like yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it definitely, I looked at the ones that were the her more red pieces, definitely bold colors to be using, and definitely sets a very specific mood and tone in there for that. I'd be curious to see what the imagery she had done and how that connects with color. But I do think you're right, Tracy, that I have a feeling that does connect with her video game company.
Tale for Tales is the video game company's name. And there was the Endless Forest is one that they were well known for. I think there's actually at the show, at the current show at the Museum of Moving Image. I think I like watched a little video, like a walkthrough of it, and there is one projection, and it has like a joystick with it that you can like move through it. So I wonder if that is one of the video games, but
I do
don't know.
see, I'm curious to see how things are going to shift with VR and AR, and even, like you said, video games being such a booming business, because I do think that people had a love for this stuff originally, obviously, but post pandemic, it really shifted the way people saw possibility around art, gatherings, events, right? And people are more just like, both would rather be at home in certain ways. I think a lot of people just like to be able to experience stuff, but maybe not necessarily leave their home. But also another big part of it is monetary things. Not everyone has the money to be going out anymore. So if you create these experiences where all of this is still accessible, but from the safety of home or the comfort of home, or with like just those monetary aspects being taken in consideration, I think that makes a big difference. Not to mention, it makes me think too in terms of accessibility for disability, right? Like, because now it gives accessibility to the disabled community, and just those that maybe not always have the ability to leave their home and go to events all the time, or can't aren't as mobile, they can still be experiencing these exhibits now. So to your point, Tracy, or what you're mentioning about now that I see that they're doing more exhibits where it has this augmented reality function and you can visit it from home, it makes me wonder how it's more inclusive for the community and it's more adaptive for different bodies, different personalities, different issues, those who may not always have the luxury of going to events in person, but now get to experience these things and have their own um like experience with it and relationship to it, and are now included in that conversation. And I think that creates a new way of like thinking about the art experience, and bringing other communities into it. I can definitely see that being like a whole new world and a new way for art art exhibits and art openings to be experienced. Additionally, like, I love the fact that she does do things 3D printing and digitally, and from multiple different like, she approaches the subject in multiple different ways, because it is cool to see, like, you have this idea, I'm going to do a digital version of it, I'm going to do an augmented reality version, I'm going to do a sculptural version. There's a lot of different ways of approaching a topic and experiencing a piece of art, and she tackles all of that, and the viewer has the option of being able to experience it in different ways.
Yeah. There's a quote from the Art News article that I just want to read because I thought this kind of summed things up really nicely. And it said, at the heart of each iteration, digital or otherwise, is a question of humanity. Despite decades of contemporary society's own back and forth between self and technology, the digital, no matter how fundamental to our lives today, still remains elusive to many at best. In taking up digital media as a medium in its own right, Harvey said she hopes to show people that this is not so strange, that this is all perfectly compatible. I think that's really like a beautiful way to summarize everything that she's trying to do, and she's her process and the experience and just the way forward, and how I think we will continue to find ways to fit, digital and technology into our lives for the better. I do think she has a little bit more of a positive spin on the digital versus what we had talked about last episode with Josh Harris, um, and the positive effect it can have versus like the negative, like psychological fallout that his projects and experiments were creating. Yeah, I don't know. So, anyways, that's my sharing, my, what would you call it? My show and tell for
Your
this.
show and tell experience.
Caring.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
I dig it though, and I think that her the quote you just shared was really great, because I do think that, and phrasing it like compatible, like, I do think all these changes going forward are more compatible with our lives than we realize. We just maybe not everyone's always able to see it from the beginning. And I think too, it's like we've had this conversation before with digital art and AI art. It's there's a lot of different approaches and there's a lot of different opinions you could have and ways of viewing it. And I think with anything and any change, there's a positive use of it and a negative use of it. And I think that all tools can be good tools. It's just how you use them, and do you use them to improve art and society, or is it used in a more negative way? I don't ever think it's my personal stance is it's never worth totally vilifying anything. Nothing is totally bad for you. Nothing is totally good. It's the intention and the usage of it. So I think she's a great example of that. And I feel good about the way forward, and I'm curious to see what other artists start doing going forward.
And I wanna now I'm gonna keep an eye on her. Now I follow her on Instagram. Looking at her stuff. It's
I want to
amazing.
see her exhibit in real life. I want us to go see it.
So
Oh, we're going.
we'll definitely make a point. So the exhibit, let me just get you the dates. So it is called My Veins Are the Wires, Your Body is the Keyboard. It's at the Museum of Moving Images in Astoria, February 2nd through July 7th, 2024. So we got a couple
Astoria,
months.
New York. Astoria, Queens, New York.
Queen.
It looks like, from me kind of scouring her social media and looking at some other stuff, it looks like she's working on another show currently that is at the Upstream Gallery, which I'm not familiar with. It's in Amsterdam. Well, obviously I'm not familiar with because I don't live in Amsterdam. But it looks like she's doing more work. She's preparing another show. So now I'm just gonna be looking at everything.
I mean, she's a U.S. artist that now lives in Rome, so automatically I'm interested in her because that's my goal. Life goals.
Seriously.
So now I'm a fan.
Huge fan.
I am also curious too. I want to take more of a time and a dive down the road into looking at her video game company and the projects they do, because from the little bit I was reading, apparently they tend to do more experimental video games, and I'm curious what that means and what that genre is like, and what people are doing with that, because I do see a lot of potential benefit from the idea of experimental video games and just the way that stuff could potentially be used. So I bet you her stuff is pretty cool. I need to check into it more, and maybe we'll do a future episode on that idea too, you know?
Yeah, that'd be fun. If anybody out there has any topics you want us to discuss or artists you want us to research, feel free to message us on the
Oh
platform
man.
or email us. It would be cool to see what everybody is into now, or what things we may need to get learnt on.
Yeah, get learned on. Hey, Jen.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to me.
Yeah, no, Trace, that was awesome. I'm super into it. Can't wait to check it out, and we'll definitely share back with you guys when we go for our kids gallery visit.
Absolutely. And we have a lot of links that we'll put on social. We are working on updating all of our resources and links for our episodes on our website. So you can check that out, ourkidspodcast.com, our kids with a Z.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next
Happy
time.
birthday.
Happy birthday. Yeah, whoever's birthday it is today.
Happy birthday.
It's Pisces season.
Yeah.
Right now.
Tracy's got a birthday coming up.
Will it be when this airs?
It will be.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be like almost right on my birthday.
Mhm.
I'll have to wait and see what day it falls on, but
Pisces season. Water sign.
Mm.
Yum yum.
Right.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Art Kids. For credits, resources, and information on our guests, visit the Art Kids website at artkidspodcast.com. That's Art Kids with a Z. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all your favorite platforms. Thanks.